jaw practices. So this is a jaw release system that eventually, oh, have you started?
Yep.
Yeah, so eventually I will teach as a whole program because I've found it so valuable for myself. And in sessions, it just unpacks holding patterns. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
When we used it, it was like a couple of turns to the left, a little bit of jaw, and you feel much softer. And especially if there's intensity within the session, instead of tightening around something, you create movement, which unpacks a holding pattern, which creates rigidity.
Add some cupping to that, it made it.
Yeah, add some cupping to it. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, really fantastic. So, first thing, what's the first thing to be aware of is breath. Breath leads everything. That is the primary mover. So breath and movement are absolutely needed together. Yeah. And and that's one of the primary differences between holotropic breath work and BBTRS, or the type of breath work that I really love to share, is that it's always involving movement, because we're literally trying to break through the habitual holding patterns, where holotropic breathwork and rebirthing are more focused on journeying outside of the body. But the healing is in the body. When we're traumatized, that's a removal, a disassociation from the body. So by bringing movement and awareness and turning the eyes in towards the body, we're creating the body as a safe haven, as a safe place to be, instead of externalizing our connection always, whether it's through food or people or work or these kind of patterns that happen to try and find connection. They're often external, yeah? But we want to rebuild our nervous system in a way that we become our own resource, that this becomes a place of safety, and that we know how to find that. And we can find that through some really simple practices. So first one is breath. So soft, slow, and deep is just a favorite general pattern. Soft, slow, deep. And so maybe it should start with slow, deep, and soft. Because often when we go deep, we can pack tension onto the deepness. Oh, I need to breathe deeper. And you create tension to create that deeper breath. Has anyone noticed that in yourself? It's like, I'm breathing deep, and there's a forcedness in it. So we want to go, how deep can my breath become, but actually remain soft in it? And that's the medicine. Because then we're entraining our nervous system to find softness in challenge. So instead of meeting challenge and difficulty with tension and force, like, how many of us do that? It's like, oh, I've got to brace myself for what's happening. Yeah? We become the matrix dancer. It's like, oh, here comes the obstacles. Like, I become fluid so it doesn't hit me and take me off center. In the practice yesterday with unlocking the knees and the hips, we notice when everything's locked down, we're out of center, we're in the brain, overthinking, not feeling connected, not feeling supported. When we sink and soften through the hips and the knees, all of a sudden we get this sense of power and strength and connection with ourselves. And it's a soft thing. So someone comes and pushes you, you just kind of go, oh, instead of like fall out of center and then want to retaliate. So the softness of our joints is the power to our resilience. And so we want to cultivate that with the quality of breath that we're making. So breath is slow. There's no rush. Slow and long and deep, but soft. So this is the ultimate in regulating breath. And then you can pack some practices on that. Yeah? So we use this breath, and then first thing we might do is orientation. So we're mimicking the baby looking for safety. So we're actually going to this very core reptilian brain that helps us to regulate. And notice the eyes move and the head follows. It's not like the eyes aren't just kind of looking around and holding this rigid pattern. We're actually letting the eyes lead the head. So this mimics the first movement of a baby.
That's when you come out.
When you go in and come out. I always do it at the beginning of the session and at the end of the session. So the beginning of the session is about, like, I'm no longer in my car, I'm actually physically here. Yeah. And at the end of the session, it's like, oh, I'm no longer in outer space traveling through the cosmos. I'm actually in my physical body, and this is where I physically am. And this is where safety is the here and now. So we're mimicking the baby. We're also moving left and right. So we're creating more neurological hemispherical connection between left and right brain. So helping to bring more access. Can we get creative with our problem solving? This really helps. If you've got an issue that you're really struggling with a solution, take left arm over to right, left leg over the right, mix, go up to low. So you want to cross this imaginary center line through the middle of the body, and also the imaginary center line in lower upper. So the more we can make unusual and interesting shapes like this, the more neurological pathways we create between the brain and the body, and therefore make pathways for problem solving. Yeah? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So orientation. And so it mimics the baby thing, but it also just unpacks tension at the back of the neck. Where the head and the neck meet is the bottle neck, So you can loosen the body all you want, but if the head's not moving and there's this rigid holding pattern, we will not be able to get out of a circulatory, overthinking mind and access the intelligence of the body. So the body's always communicating. Each of the organs are radars. They're satellite dishes taking in information. So the way the vagus nervous system works is that 80% of the neural fibers, of the nervine fibers, come from the organs to the brain, and only 20% go from the brain down to the body. Yeah. So the organs are ruling over the senses. So how you perceive the world is really filtered through the health of your organs, and that's why cleansing and fasting is so important, so valuable to us, because it helps to clear the pathways of perception. So if the liver is congested, it's a really easy one to use. So you have your first drink, it affects the liver. So the liver is ruled by spring and expansion, and it's generous. Spring's generous. It wants to give flowers to all the bees and the missuses. But spring can also bring storms to cut away the branches that have died off over winter. It's hard work. At spring, it's time to get in and plow the fields and do all of these pieces. So the liver is where we hold anger, frustration, resentment, and greed. Those are big emotions. And we hear the expression that we're green with envy. So in Chinese medicine, the liver is ruled by the color green, and it rules our generosity, but also the greed, the resentment, and the jealousy. So we have our first drink.
Shit on the liver.
Yeah, shit on the liver, yeah. So we have our first drink, and we just want to buy everyone a drink. Everyone looks great. There's more than enough for everybody. Has anyone experienced that? When you've been drinking, it's just like, yeah, I've got so much. Like, let's party, yeah? And then by the third or fourth or fifth or seventh, whatever people's alcohol consumption is, things then start to change. We then, instead of like, everyone, I love everybody, to why are you talking to that person? Yeah? We then see potentially a very innocent situation through an overpacked, like a toxic liver, then blurs the filter for the resentments and the jealousies and the things to come out. Most violence happens with alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's the liver ruling over how we see things. Yeah? And kidneys work on the water and the winter and the evening, the nighttime, the time to rest. It's our ability to flow with grace and ease and trust. You know, the river doesn't know where it's going, it just flows. You know, so if you've got really healthy kidney chi and someone asks you, hey, I'm going to go to a party on the other side of the city and I'm not exactly sure where it is yet or who it is, but I know it's going to be great and should we just like head over there? And someone with really healthy kidney chi would be like, yeah, an adventure, I don't know, let's go into the unknown. But with someone with depleted kidney chi and exhausted adrenals would hear that because it rules over the ears. So liver rules over the eyes, kidneys rule over the ears. They're the same size and shape generally as the kidneys in your body, is the size of your ears. You would hear that and just go, oh, that sounds really scary. I'm afraid of that, and it doesn't feel safe. So our safety is in our kidneys and adrenals. So thank you for coming and fasting and cleansing, because you've really helped support these organal functions that are the filters of your perception and how that affects your life. Yeah. How do we get onto that? Regulation. So we turn the head, orientation. So we're unpacking the back of the head and neck so we can access the intelligence of the body, because this is where the real intelligence is. Yeah. And so orientation first, drawing the chin slightly in and opening where the head and the neck meet creates a beautiful alignment within the spine. So the spine is like a hose. If you kink a hose, the water doesn't flow. And so when head goes forward, it's kinked. Yeah? Or it might be being held in place, but there's so much rigid holding that the veins, there's not enough space for the actual exchange of up and down. So in the orientation, we're loosening this piece. So we want the chin to come in slightly, so we've got this beautiful, lengthened spine. Yeah? So these are our starting points. And then we can just begin by wiggling the jaw. Left, right, left, right. And I'm going to move through these very quickly, but you might want to stay with each practice for 2 to 5 minutes. The longer you stay with each of the practices, the more power it unpacks. Yeah? And it becomes very trance-like. So if you're doing a holotropic breath work because you love that trance state, then these practices with prolonged periods can take you into deeply ecstatic and euphoric and altered states. So it's quite exciting.
Cool.
Yeah. So left, right, up, down. And cat space monkey bum. Yeah. And one we didn't do last night is the chewing the cud. And notice how slow the movement is. So the wiggly ones are fast, but the chewing the cud is slow. We want to kind of notice which muscles switch on and off, and where there's tension and where there's not. You'll find bits where it's like, oh, it just clicks straight over somewhere. Yeah, has anyone felt that in their round? Yeah. The more you do, even 1 or 2 days, most people are like, oh, it doesn't click anymore. So, and then the other direction. And then monkey face cat palm again. And then you can start again, the sequence left, right, up, down, the chewing the cud, the monkey face cat palm. So this is a really beautiful sequence. I can see everyone yawning and the eyes going, oh. So this is a really great way to meet stress, tension, anger. Like if someone's done something and you're triggered, wiggle the jaw, and also include the movement of the head. So with same as the practices that we've done with the jaw, we also do with the head. So turning head left, right, yeah, up, down. So I always like to go, yeah, the up, down, up, down. It's like, yes, it's my right to say no. Yeah. And then I'm like, oh, I'm not sure. Let me think about that. So we bring the ear to the shoulder, ear to the shoulder. I'm not sure. It's like a curious puppy going, are they going to give me the treat? Are they speaking another language? You know, when you talk to a puppy and they're kind of like... So these are the primary movements of the head, which is going to help open up all of this access. So we've got yes, no, yes, yes, no, maybe. And then it's like, ooh, cool. So notice where the head circles. So we're circling on a horizontal line. And so it's round. So I'm pulling the chin out as far as I can, taking the ear out to the corner as far as I can, bringing the back of the head to the back of the room. So we're keeping the line of the chin around the same and in the opposite direction. Yeah. And then we're going to do circles from the chest in the front. Yeah.
So those clicking stop, do they?
Yeah, the more you do this, everything will get lubricated and free. You'll feel more confident to speak your truth. You'll feel like you're not carrying the burdens of the world on your shoulders. From saying yes to too many things, even though you know you don't have time, but you want to be helpful and be the good guy. Yeah, so we can do the circle at the front, but also the circle at the back. So just explore all of the ranges, and then all the way chin, neck. So the full circle of a neck roll is ultimately 2 breaths. So we can inhale to the shoulder, exhale to the back, inhale to the opposite shoulder, and exhale to the back. And this is a beautiful, very slow movement, slow, smooth, long. And you want to notice which muscles switch on and off throughout the rotation. This is really important. It really helps to build our quality of presence and mindfulness and become attuned to the body. It's like, oh, it's the trapezius. Oh, it's something else. You know, you begin to isolate where the trouble muscles are by slow, present movement. Because we can go like this, but we might actually hurt ourselves a bit more. But we don't learn much about ourselves in that practice. So slow, smooth, round. So this is a great hack for getting out of depression or high energy. So whether you're super low or really overt and overwhelmed high, this practice will help to regulate into the central place. So I highly recommend this. It's wonderful practice before bed, you know, getting into bed, or when you first get up, especially if you've got a massive day ahead of you and you're already feeling like the brain's overticking and like just so you could do that whole practice in 5 minutes, just do 1 minute to each direction and notice what that does to your nervous system. Yeah. And then you can also go into the sensory awareness. This is another profound cultivation of our mindfulness practice. What does something smell like? Sound like? Taste like? What does it feel like? Yeah? So we explore these qualities, and that builds our emotional intelligence and our languaging to be able to explain and sense things that don't have a reason or purpose within the body. Many of us have an experience where it's like, I don't know what I'm feeling right now. I don't know what it means, but got this happening. Has anyone had that? I don't know why I'm feeling like this, but it's really overwhelming, and it, you know, because most of our trauma, most of the habitual nervous system trauma patterns are before we have language. So talk therapy is never going to complete and resolve those issues before language, before we become really proficient in language. So to heal the early childhood developmental trauma pieces, we need to use our felt sense awareness to unpack the actual thing that's happening and give ourselves time, space, and like compassionate curiosity to sit with it. Because the body's just showing you what it, you know, it's like it's like waving a flag or poking a stick or, you know, whatever it feels like to you. But ultimately it has a message to deliver that's never been delivered. So give your body the opportunity to deliver that message so you don't have to go into that feeling again. Does that make sense? So our emotions and sensations are kind of like either children or royal messengers is the situation I like to use. So children are like, I painted this picture and I love you so much, and you take the picture and you go to give your kid a hug, but they're already gone. They've moved on. Yeah? Has anyone experienced that with your kids? But if the kid comes, I love you so much, I made this picture for you, but you don't have time and you're in conversation with someone else and you're like, please go away, and then they're like, oh, but, and they, you know, they get louder and louder, and then there might be a tantrum, and then they go into shutdown and freeze and go into a corner and are totally dysfunctional. Have you experienced that with your own or other people's children? If you ignore them, it gets loud. Yeah? It's the same with our body. That body's always sending subtle things. You don't respond to the subtle, it will get louder and louder until ultimately it's going to become painful, because pain is the ultimate gift to presence. Pain is the ultimate gift to presence. It's really hard to do anything else when you're in pain. It's very hard to think about what you need to do, stories around other things, because the pain has captured your awareness. But that's the actual point of pain, is to bring you into the present. Not to take painkillers, not to just toughen up, princess, and get over it and just soldier on. It's actually trying to deliver a message and inform you into a wiser choice. So if we respond to the more subtle feelings and trust those, then we don't have to go into the pain body. Yeah. So we like that. So very simple practices that have profound presencing effects that can really cultivate your ability to be with what's difficult. Because what is hardest to love is the thing that needs it the most. What is hardest to love, the most unlovable thing, is the one that needs the love the most.